Well, I've been told over the course of many years that sometimes my thinking is positively medieval. Actually, I think that's a compliment. Maybe we ought to take another look at how people were educated back in the medieval world. I'm thinking in the days of the high medieval world, so from about the 12th century, the 1100s, to the 15th century, early 1400s. Thomas Cahill, in his book, Mysteries of the Middle Ages, very good book, by the way, I really enjoyed reading this a long time ago, tells us that in that time period, universities were popping up all over Europe. The very first university was the University of Bologna in northern Italy. That would have been in the late 1100s. University of Paris, University of Cologne, Cambridge, Oxford, and so forth. So what would I be expected to learn back in those days? Well, first of all, I was never taught, if I lived back in those days, that the earth was flat. They all knew that the earth was a sphere. And in the classroom, they spent much of their day in intense debates on philosophical matters, theology, the arts, sciences, mathematics, which is, of course, a science. They were studying the trivium and the quadrivium, so they were learning a classical education. The trivium was learning grammar and dialectic and rhetoric. Grammar was mastering the Latin language. That was the international language back in those days. Then you learned dialectic, how to give a logical argument. And you would be expected to give that logical argument for at least an hour or so without a break. And then rhetoric, how to give a persuasive speech, how to speak clearly and to enunciate without a lot of verbal pauses. And that sort of stuff was eliminated. Then in the quadrivium, you learned astronomy and you learned history and you learned mathematics and you learned architecture and art and music. You learned all of these wonderful things that I wonder, are they still being taught today?